What's up, everybody? Kita here, your queer dating coach and matchmaker, and welcome to Queer Connections, a channel where LGBTQ plus people can come to get effective dating tools, tips, and strategies that you can use so your next dating experience is your last. Now, today I want to hone in on the number one area and place where most people skip when they're getting into dating. Now, if you are someone that's like, this is going to be the year that I find my person, this video is definitely for you. Now, in order for that to be true, you're going to have to move from dating unconsciously to consciously dating. Nobody teaches us anything about relationships. We don't know how to date. We're really all just out here winging it, right? Until we find that person, we go through a lot of heartbreak. And so what I want to do is teach you how to consciously date, how to add intention and be aware of your actions and who you're being and what you're doing in order to really, truly attract the person that's meant for you. So many people focus on flirting or, what they look like, whether they're in shape, their hair, their clothes, and all that, so they can be good enough for the other person. And those things are okay, but I want to talk about the number one place that you should start, and that is getting prepared to date. Now, when we think preparation when it comes to date, we think, okay, yeah, cool. Like I'm in the gym, I'm going out to the bars or attending events. But I'm talking about the inner work that has to be done to truly prepare you to attract a different type of person. When we're unconsciously dating, we're not aware of how we're being and or not clear on what we truly want, which means that we're attracting all different kinds of people. So as we switch into consciously dating, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 areas today to look at so you can begin to truly prepare yourself mentally and emotionally, not just physically, to allow the person that's meant for you to come in. So let's get started. Number 1, have you made space? Now, when you go through a breakup, sometimes people tend to just throw all kinds of stuff out. They don't want anything from their ex, but it's not just about the physical space. It's also about the mental and emotional space. So Steve Harvey tells the perfect story about space. When he was a kid and he got this job, he wanted to buy his first car. Every time he got a paycheck, he'd come in, he'd be like, Mom, I'm gonna buy me a car, I'm gonna buy me a car. And his mom always said, yeah, but your old car is sitting out in the back. So the next time he get paid, he's like, Mom, I'm gonna buy me a car. And she said, but your old car is still sitting out in the back. So he did that time and time again, and she still had the same response. So one day he says, why do you keep saying that? I'm excited about buying a car. I want you to be excited for me. And all you're talking about is the car in the back. And she looked at him and says, how are you going to buy another car when you have nowhere to put it? And she said, because your old car is still sitting in the back. So he goes back there, gets the car towed, cleans up the area, really realizes that there's a lot more space in there than he thought, and got all the leaves and stuff out of there. And instead of giving a car in the next month, he got a car 2 weeks later. Now I tell you that story because we want the person to come into our life, but we haven't made space for them mentally, emotionally, or physically. So let's talk about the physical. Are there things that you're hanging on to from an ex that are significant and they cause you pain every time you look at them? Now, there are some things like clothes that your ex bought you or different sentimental things that you might not want to give up, but they don't cause any type of emotional charge when you look at it. So like those things you don't necessarily have to give away. But if there are things that you're hanging on to that you might want to get rid of, then you definitely want to get rid of that. Secondly, do you have someone that is your friend with benefits, or that you're just simply talking to, you're just hanging out with, that you probably know is not meant for you, but you're just keeping around so you won't be by yourself? That person is taking up space in your life. There's no room for someone else to truly come in when this person that you're not really serious about, they're not serious about you, is taking up space. Not only in a physical sense, but mentally and emotionally. And I'm talking about the person that you know is not meant for you. That's not lined up with what you truly want in a relationship. And even if you're not 100% clear about what you want in a relationship, you have a gut feeling. You can feel it in your body that this is not the person. So you gotta get rid of them. Not only for the sake of someone else coming in, but they're taking up space mentally and emotionally for you. They're causing pain and hurt over there with you by just having them hang around. Especially when you're doing a friends with benefit thing, knowing that you really truly want a relationship. When we think about mental and emotional things, what are some hurts and pains and traumas that we haven't healed and let go of? Those things are really important because we emanate a type of energy. And when we are hurting, we set really strict rules for ourselves, and that, right, blocks people from coming into your life because you have this one strict rule, like, I won't date a Leo. And I say that because I've heard people say that, right? But you don't know, that Leo could be the perfect person for you. But it's not about them being a Leo. It's about how a Leo hurt you, right? So you want to look at what's going on emotionally and mentally for you that needs to be cleared up, that needs to be healed, and talked about, right? Or some things that you really need to express. What are some things that you need to deal with within yourself? And what I mean is, a lot of times when we are reflecting on a relationship and we're upset and we're mad and we're not trusting, it's not necessarily that we don't trust the other person or we're mad at the other person. We're mad at ourselves for maybe knowing that this person wasn't it, or ignoring the red flags, and we're like, how can I be so stupid? That is taking up space in your heart. So there's no way in the world that anybody else, or that you're prepared to allow anyone else to really truly come in. Number 2, what type of reflection have you done? A lot of times we will say, well, I don't want this, or no, I don't want this, but we don't take the time to say, how was this person familiar? What was some familiar tendencies that I did, some repeated behaviors that I keep doing over and over and over again? What characteristics or ways of being did this person or people that I have dated, what's consistent within them? Okay, because people say all the time, I keep dating the same person over and over and over again. But you keep doing that is because we don't take the time to go, what do all of these people have in common? Because those things in common is what's like attracting you to them. And a lot of times, side note, it has a lot to do with, one of your parents or whoever like raised you in that regard, right? Because like another dating coach that I follow, they say we tend to get in relationships with our unfinished business. Okay. So the way that you want to make space, like mentally, emotionally, is you have to reflect on what do these people that I've dated have in common? How are the relationships working out? Typically, if you're dating the same type of person, the timeline is working out the same. So then you want to look at, am I jumping into things too early, right? And as you're looking at what worked and what didn't work, you have to look at what worked as well. So you have some positive to come into that. So you know what you want to keep when you get into your vision, and we'll talk about that later. So you know what you want to keep, and we can focus more on what we want, because right now a lot of people focus on what they don't want, and what you resist persists. So you go, I don't want to date someone that's a cheater, and I don't want to date someone like this. And when you resist that, that person tends to come in because that's what you're focused on. So you want to look at what worked, what didn't work, what are their common characteristics, both good and bad. And from there, you can look at what boundaries do I need to implement, like right away. See, we have, especially as like lesbians and queer women, we do this thing where we spend so much time with someone early on in the relationship that we don't take the time to reflect, or we don't take the time to implement our boundaries that we know should be implemented in the beginning, which means that they're harder to implement later on. But if you have done this type of reflection of like, you don't want this same type of relationship, then you know, okay, well, this is a boundary for me, and this is something that I can implement early on. You want to be so clear on the reflection that you've done, that you're like, hey, this is a boundary for me later, early on in the relationship versus later. Here's a bonus reflection for you, which I know is a little bit scary, or maybe sometimes impossible, depending on how a relationship ended, but you can do this with friends and family as well. Bonus reflection. I want you to get feedback on how you show up in relationships. This is going to take something. Most of the time when relationships end, it's the other person's fault. We don't really sit and take into account of, how am I responsible for how my relationships are going? You want to get feedback about how you show up. You want to ask people in your life what they can depend on you for. What can't they depend on you for? How does it impact them when you're upset? How do they feel about your communication skills, right? And I'll put a document of questions, a PDF like down below in the description, so you can look at what questions you really want to ask, because it's also important to see how you're showing up, because just the same way as someone made an impact on you, you have an impact on the other person as well. Those tendencies are seeping into how you're out there dating and the people that you're attracted. I hope you take on the bonus reflection. Let me know in the comments how that goes for you if you do it. And I promise you, it's difficult, but it's very eye-opening. And at the end of the day, it's probably the most beneficial reflection that you will ever be able to make in your life. And lastly, do you have a clear vision? Now, when I say clear vision, I don't mean, yeah, I know what type of person that I want to be with. And I'm not talking about the physical. I'm talking about, do you have a vision of the type of relationship that you want? Like, as you close your eyes, do you know what the relationship feels like? Like, what's the experience that you want to have in the relationship? When you can do that, it takes off this pressure of finding the one, the person, right? Great relationships are not found. Healthy relationships are not found. What you do is you find someone that loves themselves and you love you, and then you choose to love each other every day. You choose to create this healthy relationship that you want. And a lot of times when we're so focused on the type of person we're looking for characteristics, all we have to go on is what people are saying and what we feel in our body. And your body can betray you. Okay, we know that you get this gut feeling, this spark, you've known somebody for so long and it turns out that person is like terrible for you. So what I want you to do is, when you're thinking about your relationship and you're writing it out, because we do need to write it out, I want you to get detailed about what that feels like and the experiences that you want to have. If you're clear about the experiences that you want to have, then you know what actions to look for, right? Or you'll know how to communicate certain things. So, for example, my wife says, I want you to be supportive, okay? And this was in the beginning of our relationship. And I go and I always ask her, okay, cool. What does that look like to you? Because support for me and support for her may look like two different things. Like, support for me may, be like, hey, I need you to like and comment on all of my videos. Support for her may be like, she needs me to be open about her taking these jobs, like in a row, whatever the case may be, right? People have different visions about what certain things mean. So it's important for you to get connected to, what does support look like? What does communication look like? What does resolving a conflict look like and feel like for you? When you can do that, you can communicate those things to your partner, or you know what actions to look for. So if we're resolving a conflict and your partner yells and screams all the time, one, you can set that boundary of like, hey, that's not going to work for me. And then you can look to see if their actions are going to change. Okay. So it takes it out of being just looking for someone that says, I'm a great communicator. You're like, cool, you're a great communicator, but are we communicating on the same level? Right? I have the experience. This is the experience of communication that I want. Are you able to communicate in that same realm and on that same level? It doesn't have to look exactly the same, but it is important to be clear about the relationship, because there are a lot of people that say that they're one thing, but the experience of them having that is not the same. So I hope you all enjoyed those tips and really looking at a different way that you can prepare to date. If you want to really, truly be intentional about consciously dating, then click on the link below in the description and check out my Conscious Queer Dating program. This is a program where we do all this. I take you from being prepared to date, to attraction, to flirting. If applicable, if I can do it, we'll do some in-person coaching. We'll talk about where you can meet like-minded people. I may even be your wing woman one night. Either way, this is a very hands-on experience, and I'm going to walk you from the beginning to the end. So if you're meeting someone in the middle of that, how you can make sure it goes past 3 months or 3 weeks and the conversations don't die down. This program is amazing, and it's unlike any other because it's not just a bunch of insights. There's actions that we're taking on a weekly basis, walking you through messaging and conversations with other people. And it's the opportunity of a lifetime. So click on that link in the description and check it out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video. Again, this channel is unlike any other. There are so many dating tips and things out there, but I know as far as like in the queer community, there's not anybody that's really giving you these tips, tools, and strategies, not just advice on their experiences, but effective things that you can do as a queer person, right? And so I'm here to provide that for you. So share this with everybody in your community. I love you all. I'll see you next time. Peace.